There's one huge mistake that securely attached people make with avoidance that I really don't want you to make, because if you do make this one mistake, then you are going to end up with a lifetime of suffering, heartache, and just complete misunderstandings. As a securely attached person, you have been given the greatest gift a human being could be given. I would call it the golden ticket to life. Your parents have given you the most incredible gift in that you are able to regulate your nervous system and find your way through problems and adversity in a way that insecurely attached people cannot. So in this video, we're going to share with you this number one mistake and then give you one important question to ask yourself so that you can make a solid decision as to what to do in your relationship if you're currently dating a truly avoidantly attached person. By the way, my name is Renee.
I'm David.
And for the last 16 years, we have been coaching women in dating, relationships, and in healing insecure attachment styles. So let's start off with what this number one mistake is.
Basically, as a secure person, there is a subconscious effort to project that security upon others. So, in other words, as a secure person, I go out there and I assume that other people share the same neurology as I do.
Yeah.
And that could cause you a lot of problems.
Yes, basically secure people make this mistake of assuming that the avoidance nervous system functions just like theirs does. And it doesn't. I want to drive this point home so that you get it and you internalize it. The avoidance nervous system is never going to work like your nervous system does as a secure person. You are really good at emotional regulation. You are pretty good at dealing with and moving through adversity. And even if you have some struggles in doing so, you will actually get better over time because you find a way. You have the internal resourcefulness afforded to you by a robust nervous system so that you can broaden and build upon not only your self-esteem, but your ability to regulate the negative effect or negative emotions that show up through life stresses. So to illustrate what we are talking about here, let me give you an example. When you are under extreme stress as a securely attached person, what do you think is your modus operandi, or the first thing that you go to? What are your thought patterns? What does your body do? Now, I will ask you for your thoughts here because you are the truly securely attached person in the room. You started off with secure attachment. You didn't have to earn it. From my perspective, anxiety doesn't really hit you, at least not in pathological ways. So what is your process as a secure person?
I guess you just deal with the stress as they come.
Yeah.
And the stress is never too great or too little. I think the stress is quite appropriate for the situation. And as such, I'm not going to overdrive. I'm not going from 0 to 100 very quickly. I'm going to the right amount of stress to get the problem solved and dealt with, and then we're done.
That's exactly how most securely attached people operate. However, with the avoidant, when stress shows up, they don't go to that place. Their impulse is to make it far away. They deny. It's an effect of denial or removal from the situation. It's what some people would call a flight response. Now, of course, every human has fight or flight within them and freeze. And it just so happens that people with avoidant attachment style tend more towards the flight response. So for example, if you've dealt with avoidance before, you would notice that they run away from conflict. They have no ability to deal with conflict. When a problem is just a little bit too large, they're gone, they're absent. Okay. When things go deeper, when you ask for more intimacy from them in creative or less creative ways, they don't respond well. They treat you like you're speaking a completely different language. When you have emotions or vulnerability, they may even become aggressive in some certain situations because your vulnerability makes them feel uncomfortable. They are not okay with their own vulnerability. So they can't actually regulate themselves around you if you're vulnerable, if you're sad, if you're disappointed, hurt, even enraged. So I want you to understand that whilst the secure person can function in vulnerability, whilst vulnerability flows through them naturally, the secure person can relatively easily grieve and deal with situational anxiety. The avoidant will be gone.
They don't process anything. So in replacement of this processing of emotions, they run away. They're absent. They're gone. They throw these emotions into a bag and they don't look at it ever again.
Yeah. And they're happy there. Happy as an avoidant can be.
I guess they have to have no resources to deal with it, and I don't think they'll ever have the resources to deal with it because it's such enormous trauma when it comes to what avoidants have to go through in order to be avoidant in the first place. And we're not just talking about fearful avoidant, we're talking about dismissive avoidant, the people at the end of the extreme, the true avoidants here. Fearful avoidants are mostly operating upon anxiety, the anxiety of closeness, so they push people away consciously, whereas dismissive avoidant or the true avoidants, they don't actually see any value in relationships. They couldn't care less. It's just, it's foreign to them. It's not even a place that they would even want to visit.
Yeah.
So as a secure person, my, I guess, blueprint when it comes to relationships is to get closer, to find that closeness, that sense of intimacy. And that is, let's say, the top of the mountain. Whereas an avoidant, a true avoidant, a dismissive avoidant, their goal is not to go to the top of the mountain. No, not at all. They're happy. They want to stay at the base.
Yeah.
They want to stay separate. They want to stay in that place. So when you have two people, and I want to go to the top of the mountain, and you want to stay at the base, that's not going to create any lasting relationship. It's going to cause conflict over and over and over. And this is not just a little trip to the mountain, because, as a securely attached person, that's where I want to go all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas the avoidant wants to never go there.
And that's such a great analogy, because studies have shown that as a secure person, you will actually lower your sense of esteem to try to match, for example, if you're with an anxious or even an avoidant partner. And anxiously attached people and avoidant people have much lower esteem for themselves than securely attached people, just as a byproduct of not receiving that nurturing love, care, and acceptance from their caregivers. And so securely attached people care so much about the connection that they actually try to mimic the lower esteem levels of the insecurely attached people in their life. And when I say that, I'm not saying that a secure person will turn avoidant. That just does not happen. A secure person can potentially turn anxious if they've had severe and prolonged trauma in relationships with the wrong person. Add on to that they've also maybe lost their support system. Yes, that can produce maybe some anxious patterns in a secure person, but they won't become avoidant, okay? But as a secure person, you will end up with more anxiety if you allow yourself to stay with the avoidant long term.
Because they'll never change. They will never change. You think you're trying to pull all the resourcefulness you have in order for them to feel safe, to try and help them heal. But the thing is, they can't be healed, especially the ones at the end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
There's too much trauma for too long.
Yeah.
And it's such a vulnerable stage.
Yeah.
It's almost as if they had their legs amputated. They're not going to grow their legs back.
We're talking specifically about avoidance here, dismissive avoidance, not fearful avoidant or anxious.
Yeah, because that's different.
Yeah.
So they're not going to just repair themselves.
No.
I think that the damage is fairly permanent.
Yeah.
And so you're always going to try, but it's never going to work. Yeah. And it's always going to cause you conflict after conflict and a lot of disconnect, because there is no middle ground here.
Yeah.
You want to climb the mountain, they want to stay at home. I'll give you an example. My mother is very avoidant, and ever since the age of 11, I've lived with her and growing up, and I want to know what she's like for, 30 years, and very unsuccessful.
Yeah.
In 30 years.
Well, you didn't know her prior to that, so
Correct.
Just for context, and David tends to forget to mention this, but David his mother left him when he was 3, okay? She disappeared from the picture completely, went to a different country, had her own life there, and then when David was age 11, he came out to Australia to live with her. And so, luckily, David wasn't raised by her because he was given secure attachment through his father and grandparents. But then when you met her at age 11, there was a huge chunk missing. My
intuitive drive was to want to get to know her and get to be close to her, since she was my only caregiver. But the thing is, she never wanted to be close. So there's always that barrier. And that barrier has never been bridged in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
It can't be bridged. And so there's such a big distance gap. And, now I've sort of given up on it because I know that it's not going to ever change. But when I was young, it would frustrate me. You're supposed to be my mother. Why aren't you acting like one?
Yeah.
And that is what you're going to experience if you're a secure person looking to create that relationship with someone who's truly avoidant. There's always going to be that gap, and that's never going to be bridged.
It took us 20 years to fully understand and appreciate this about David's mother, that there was really no point. And painfully, at the end of these 20 years, or 19 years to be exact, we realized that actually she never wanted the best for you. She didn't have the capacity to even want the best for her own son, and she never wanted the best for anyone around her, because there's always this sense of it's me against the world.
And I'm the world.
Yeah. And she would, chew people up and spit them out, basically. She'd use people until they were no longer useful to her, and then the discard came.
Yeah.
So that's an avoidant for you. And so at the start
and I kept going back because I thought, okay, maybe we'll do a different way, or maybe we'll give it more, be more patient, give her more time.
Yeah.
But that's not the solution here. That's not the solution, because at the end of the day, her nervous system is not the same as mine.
Yeah, exactly. So at the start of the video, I promised you that I was going to leave you with a question that was going to help you make a decision in your relationship with an avoidant. Here's the question. So, given that your parents or your caretakers put in years of sacrifice of emotional energy, spiritual energy, financial resources to give you this golden ticket that is secure attachment style, I want you to answer this for yourself. Do you think that this secure attachment style and all the effort your parents put into you is worth the price that it is going to cost you in dealing with this avoidant? So in other words, is the secure attachment and the potential loss of it, or this strain that your secure attachment system will be under in dealing with this avoidant, is it worth it? Is your avoidant worth it? You really have to answer that question for yourself. And I know there's going to be some people in the room who, for one reason or another, just a few people who are going to look at their avoidant and think, yes, this is the person for me. But I believe that for most of you, you'll end up realizing at some point that actually they're not worth the cost.
Well, I think as a secure person, I think intuitively we understand and we can see that if someone doesn't want to put in the effort, we can feel that over and over and over. So unless, you're living a fantasy, you'd feel that too.
Yeah.
And so you want to let that gut instinct guide you as to what you should do, rather than just want to live in that fantasy and stay in that situation.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very important. And on that note as well, just because someone avoids you doesn't mean that they're avoidant. We've got to mention that, right?
Yeah.
Because people avoid others for all types of reasons,
Yes.
all sorts of reasons.
Well, often with avoidance, they don't always physically avoid you. They may even stay in close proximity, but they're just not. They're not there. They're not there in heart. They're not there in soul. They're not here.
Yeah, and you got to notice that.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes avoidance will even try and gaslight you to make you feel like, oh, you're just overly anxious, or you're overly this and overly that.
Very common.
Yeah, very common, as a way to, take the attention off of themselves and onto you. So that's something that you always got to watch out for, because true avoidance, they have a lot of masking strategies. They have ways to distract you or even deflect the attention and not address any real issues.
Yeah, because they're unable. They know they're unable to address the issue.
Yeah.
So the best strategy they've got is the gaslighting, is the deflection.
So if you're anxious already to some extent, that may make you even more anxious and make you feel like it's your fault, and because at the end of the day, a lot of avoidance, because they don't have any real value in relationships, what they tend to do is they tend to use people. They tend to get narcissistic supply from people, and so they may want to keep you around as supply long term. So that's something that you got to watch out for as well, especially with truly avoidant people.
And if you want to discover where you sit on the attachment spectrum and get a score for how secure you are, we have good news for you, because we have a free attachment quiz. We've already had over 20,000 people go through this quiz. It only takes 3 minutes, and you can get access to that quiz at Renee's links.
And comment down below your score, because the quiz will give you a score at the end of how secure you are on this spectrum. And if you score above 70, you're doing very, very well.
All right, hope that made sense. Any questions, leave them in the comments, and we will see you in our next video.
All right, bye.